you really ought to know about one of the most incredible runs in entertainment history. In late 2002, Marshall Mathers, better known as Eminem, pulled off a feat that very few artists have ever matched. He simultaneously had the #1 film at the box office, the #1 album on the charts, and the #1 single in the country. Sit tight and stick around to the end, because we're going to break down how this happened, why it was so unlikely, and what it tells us about culture in the early 2000s. Spoiler alert, you're going to want to revisit Lose Yourself after this. To appreciate why this Triple Crown was so remarkable, let's set the scene. The year 2002 was a transitional moment for pop music, hip-hop, and American culture. CD sales were still booming even though the Napster era had kicked off the age of digital piracy. MTV was still relevant. People were still buying movie tickets in droves, and the internet hadn't yet splintered audiences into a million niche communities. In this environment, an artist could truly dominate the cultural conversation, but doing so across multiple mediums was almost unheard of. Jennifer Lopez, for example, had managed to have a #1 album and a #1 film simultaneously in 2001, but adding a #1 single to that mix had eluded virtually everyone since the days of Elvis Presley. Enter Eminem, the bleach blonde rapper from Detroit who had already turned the music world on its head with a potent combination of technical skill and outrageous provocations. Eminem's journey to that 2002 apex began years earlier in a working-class neighborhood. Born in Missouri and raised in Detroit, Marshall Mathers found solace in writing rhymes and freestyle battling. After grinding through local competitions and releasing indie records, he was discovered by Dr. Dre in 1997. Dre recognized his prodigious talent and signed him to Aftermath. With Dre's guidance, Eminem released the Slim Shady LP in 1999, introducing the world to his mischievous, alter ego-filled storytelling. Its follow-up, the Marshall Mathers LP in 2000, blew up on an unprecedented scale. That album sold over 1 million copies in its first week, won Grammys, and sparked endless debates about artistic expression versus moral boundaries. When you've got politicians blaming you for society's downfall and teenagers quoting your lyrics like scripture, you're either doing something very right or very wrong, and Eminem was doing both. By the time he began working on his 4th studio album, The Eminem Show, the rapper was no longer an underdog. He was a lightning rod for controversy and a cultural juggernaut. Released in May 2002, The Eminem Show showcased a more mature, introspective side of Marshall. On tracks like Without Me, he gleefully poked fun at pop culture, while songs such as Cleaning Out My Closet and Haley's Song offered raw glimpses into his strained family relationships. He even tackled the politics of fame and free speech on white America. Despite being leaked online weeks early, the album sold 284,000 copies in its first day and quickly shot to #1 on the Billboard 200. It would go on to be the best-selling album of 2002, eventually achieving Diamond certification. Fans who had grown up with Slim Shady's cartoonish antics now saw a complex artist wrestling with his demons while still delivering the puns and hooks that made him famous. While The Eminem Show dominated the music charts, Eminem was preparing to make his acting debut. Hollywood had long wanted to cash in on his star power, and the perfect vehicle arrived in the form of 8 Mile. Directed by Curtis Hanson and written by Scott Silver, the movie told the story of Jimmy B. Rabbit Smith Jr., an aspiring white rapper struggling to break out of Detroit poverty. Though not strictly autobiographical, the film drew heavily from Marshall's own experiences, lending it a raw authenticity. Eminem threw himself into the role, working long days on set and nights in a makeshift studio where he wrote new music. One of those late-night sessions produced Lose Yourself, a track he wrote in a trailer between takes. He later said he recorded all 3 verses in a single take, only later realizing he had captured lightning in a bottle. Talk about seizing the moment. When 8 Mile hit theaters on November 8, 2002, it exploded at the box office. Reviews were surprisingly positive, praising Eminem's performance and the film's gritty honesty. Opening weekend receipts topped $51 million, beating out family fare like The Santa Claus 2. For a modestly budgeted drama about rap battles, this was phenomenal. Even though Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets would knock it from the top spot the following week, 8 Mile ultimately grossed nearly $243 million worldwide on a $41 million budget. That's a profit margin that would make any label executive drool, and it proved that audiences were willing to follow Eminem from the record store to the multiplex. But the film was only part of the Triple Crown. The song Lose Yourself, released just before the movie premiered, became an anthem almost overnight. Built on a haunting guitar riff and a cinematic beat, the track captured the tension and determination of a rapper about to take his shot. The lyrics, "You better lose yourself in the music, the moment, you own it, you better never let it go," resonated with aspiring artists, athletes, students, and anyone who had ever faced a make-or-break opportunity. The single rocketed to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 12 consecutive weeks, ultimately winning the Academy Award for Best Original Song. It became Eminem's first #1 single in the United States and remains one of the most successful rap songs of all time. Not bad for a song written in a cramped trailer while the crew took a lunch break. Now, about that Triple Crown. It's one of those fun bits of pop culture trivia that reveals how rare cross-media domination really is. In the third week of November 2002, Eminem could boast the #1 movie in America with 8 Mile, the #1 song with Lose Yourself, and the year's best-selling album with The Eminem Show. Some debate remains about which week the album topped the charts, as the 8 Mile soundtrack itself also hit #1 around the same time. Either way, Eminem was sitting atop cinema, music, and radio simultaneously. Billboard later noted that very few artists have managed to hold the top spot in film, album, and single categories at once. Even Beyoncé, for all her achievements, has paired a #1 film with a #1 song, but not always with a concurrent album. For Eminem, a white rapper who'd once been dismissed as a novelty, to accomplish this in a genre that had rarely been embraced by mainstream Hollywood, the achievement was even more staggering. Let's break down 5 reasons why this Triple Crown matters. And you won't believe #4, cultural crossover. Eminem's success proved that hip-hop could drive box office as well as record sales. Before 8 Mile, few rap films had cracked the mainstream. His movie turned freestyle battles into dramatic set pieces and brought rap's underdog narrative to multiplex audiences. Artistic credibility. Lose Yourself wasn't just a hit. It was recognized by the Academy as Best Original Song. This validation helped legitimize rap as an art form in spaces historically dominated by other genres. It also marked the first time a hip-hop song won that award. Market synergy. By starring in a film, producing its soundtrack, and releasing his own album within months of each other, Eminem created a feedback loop. The movie drove listeners to the soundtrack promoted the film, and the success of both drove renewed interest in The Eminem Show. Defying expectations. Let's be honest, when you think Hollywood actor, the Detroit rapper known for rhyming about chainsaws and celebrity feuds doesn't immediately come to mind. Yet his performance garnered respect from critics and audiences alike. It's as if the class clown suddenly aced the math exam. Legacy building. The Triple Crown cemented Eminem's place in pop culture history. Decades later, people still reference that run when debating the greatest years an entertainer has had. It set a bar that only a handful of artists will ever come close to reaching. Of course, this story wouldn't be complete without a few jokes. Eminem has never been afraid to poke fun at himself. During press interviews for 8 Mile, he joked that learning lines for a movie was harder than memorizing lyrics because you can't just throw in a random rhyme if you mess up. He also admitted that he kept expecting director Curtis Hanson to yell, "Dre, you're up," whenever the scene required real acting. At the 2003 Oscars, he skipped the ceremony altogether and later quipped in an interview that he was at home watching cartoons with his daughter Haley when his name was called. "I thought they were kidding," he said. A decade later, he performed Lose Yourself at the Oscars and joked that he finally got the memo. It's worth noting that the Triple Crown was far from the end of Eminem's story. After 2002, he continued to release albums like Encore and Recovery, battled addiction, took a hiatus to focus on his health, and then returned with renewed vigor. He earned more Grammys, engaged in high-profile rap battles with younger stars, and even headlined the 2022 Super Bowl halftime show alongside Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Mary J. Blige. Yet many fans still point to 2002 as the peak of his cultural dominance. It's the moment when an outsider from Detroit became a mainstream icon without losing his edge. It also demonstrates how the early 2000s created the perfect storm of media convergence. CDs and DVDs were thriving, movies were communal events, and radio still held sway. Today, when streaming algorithms carve audiences into micro-niches, it's unlikely that any artist will repeat such a trifecta on such a scale. Now here's where you come in. What do you remember about 2002 and Eminem's meteoric rise? Did you sneak into the theater to watch 8 Mile with your friends? Was Lose Yourself on repeat while you pumped yourself up for a big exam, a job interview, or maybe just a particularly intense video game session? Drop a comment below and tell us your favorite Eminem lyric or your funniest memory of trying to rap along without tripping over your tongue. We'd love to hear from fans old and new. Before we wrap up, let's end with a final chuckle. Eminem once joked in an interview that his mom asked if she'd get royalties from Lose Yourself because she made him spaghetti before his first rap battle. He assured her that the song's famous "Mom's Spaghetti" line wasn't a backhanded compliment, though he has since opened a restaurant called Mom's Spaghetti in Detroit, proving that he can turn even a joke into a business venture. Talk about seizing every moment. In conclusion, Eminem's 2002 Triple Crown is more than a trivia tidbit. It's a snapshot of a cultural moment when an artist transcended medium barriers and dominated music, film, and radio simultaneously. From The Eminem Show topping the album charts to 8 Mile capturing audiences in theaters and Lose Yourself becoming a motivational anthem, Marshall Mathers proved that authenticity and hard work can translate across forms. His journey from struggling Detroit MC to global superstar is inspiring not just because of the numbers he racked up, but because of the resilience, creativity, and audacity it took to get there. Thanks so much for watching. Your support means the world. If you could drop a like and subscribe, that would really help the channel. Have a spectacular day.